Quilting a quilt. That sounds really daunting, particularly when you think that the only option to you is this free motion. People say, oh, I can't free motion, and you're right, it's not an instant skill, but you're very used to using your walking foot. So why don't we take advantage of that and get the quilt quilted really quickly with simple wavy lines. Here is the back of a quilt that I'm going to show you, and you can see really how pretty it looks. I've done very irregular wavy lines, and it holds the quilt fine. You don't have to do it very intense quilting with today's waddings. Most of them will survive the wash really happily with about 8 to 10 inch gaps between the quilting. Just check when you buy your wadding on the quilting instructions. But this sort of quilting will hold the quilt together really well. This is a really fast quilt that we have made on the website for you. It was just taking big squares of stripy fabrics. And then as you've seen from the other side, I've just done wavy lines. Two other things to think about when you're using the machine is to think about the thread you use. I think when you're you're going to quilt something like this, a statement thread is really fun. It's very thick, it's just going to enhance the fabrics, and one of the ways to find out what the thread will look like is just to puddle a bit of it onto your quilt. It's really easy to do when I'm at home and I'm using threads that I've already bought, but most quilt shops will allow you to do this. The long arm quilting girls do this all the time. You need to be able to see what it's going to look like. These threads, both of them, are thicker threads than I would normally use for piecing, so we also have to think about how that will affect our needle and also the needle and the tension. For the thread that I've put on the top, it's a sulky thread, and therefore it is slightly thicker, and I would always put a quilting needle into my machine. Two things that it does is that it does what it says on the little label. It's a quilting needle, and that means that the eye of the needle is bigger. That does two jobs. One is it allows me to thread thicker thread through, very obvious, I know, and it also allows the thread a little bit more room and therefore doesn't get over hot and card, i.e. break when you're stitching, because you don't want that. The other thing that I would do on my machine is I would turn my stitch length to a 3, which is the quilting length that I use, rather than a piecing length stitch, which is 2.2 or 2.4. So let's just have a quick look at how we're going to do the quilting.